Hello there everybody, the Hat Person here, and look at that, I got a little bit of a new outfit now. Look at that. Zippers. Huh? See that? I feel like a Final Fantasy character. So now that we are leaving 2014 in the past and moving on to the present with 2015, video games keep getting a lot better than ever before, with bigger features and more frame rates than you could shake a stick at, and just the graphics keep getting so much better than ever before. And now everybody's always talking about, like, what's the best piece of innovation? You know, what's the best, biggest, newest feature that'll blow the mind of everybody in the gaming industry? Every single boy and girl will have their heads just explode at this brand new thing that'll arise from people. That's what everybody keeps going crazy about. But in my side of the fence, that kind of focus more on formulas that already exist, but they keep getting tweaked and changed, or they add some small thing that makes your experience that much better. Which is the kind of thing that inspired me to create this top 10 list of the greatest attention to detail in games. Now, I do want to emphasize that this is my personal list of attention to detail. And some of them might be argued as, oh, you know, it's not really attention to detail, it's more like convenience or something of the sort. But again, they're all small, tiny little additions that nobody will really notice or appreciate until somebody comes in and points that out, which is why I'm making this video. And perhaps, you know, me pointing these things out might help game developers or game designers to maybe focus more on these kind of tiny little things. Perhaps there's a game that is very derivative of another game, but perhaps you can add these little things so that you can make it its own unique experience, rather than having to blow people's minds with something completely new like how most big AAA companies want to do these days. So without further ado, let's begin with my top 10 greatest attention to detail in games. Number 10. The skip button. I don't know about you, but I really like cutscenes. I think they're pretty awesome. Their very existence demonstrates how far we've come in gaming in such a small amount of time. In the 80s, we had stuff that looked like this. And now we have stuff that looks like this.
Right. Take her away.
Cutscenes are the kind of thing that makes a normal-ass game turn into something much bigger, and if it weren't for it, we probably wouldn't have a lot of what people consider historic moments in gaming, or just plain memorable, whether it's a joke or an actual awesome moment. However, there are many people who are not particularly fond of cutscenes. Actually, there are many gamers who hate cutscenes and don't like a game if they're not given absolute and complete control of every single tiny aspect of the game. Either that or they have the attention span of a dead dust mite, but I digress. Personally, I love cutscenes, but I do have to admit, there are many times where I want to get a quick fix of gameplay in a short amount of time, but I gotta slog through a lot of cutscenes that I can't skip and I don't care about in that particular time, which leaves me a bit frustrated. Fortunately, many developers give you the option to skip these segments whenever you wish. Sometimes it varies, like having the game force you into watching a cutscene one time, but then after watching it that one time, you're free to skip it whenever you want. Which is the kind of thing that I like. I think it's cool that some games force you to watch some stuff once so you know what's going on, and then letting you skip as much as you want. Obviously, not all cutscenes are great, and not all pieces of dialogue are incredibly engaging, so it's good to have an option to skip whenever you want to. The skip button. It's highly underappreciated, but sorely missed when it's not there. Number 9. The saving option in Odin Sphere. Don't you guys hate it that when you get some sort of yes or no question in a game, the text is highlighted in a certain way that you're not entirely sure what you are actually selecting? And then when you press a button, you end up selecting the thing that you don't want? But of course, Atlas comes swooping in heroically, bringing with him an awesome game that will solve everybody's problems. Whenever you want to save your progress in the PS2 game Odin Sphere, you don't have a default place where the text is highlighted. Here, the feather that you use to select stuff is neutral. It is neither at the top nor on the bottom. It just stays there right in the middle. It is up to you to decide where you actually want to go, up or down. After you decide, it circles your decision and it stays there, no matter how many times you keep pressing the same direction instead of just looping back around like in most games. It is an incredibly tiny thing, but it's the kind of thing that only awesome companies like Atlas and Vanillaware would notice and fix in a really creative way. I feel like this is a thing that more games should have. No longer will you experience a situation where you accidentally pressed on something that you didn't want, because it's neutral. And that gives me another reason within the laundry list of reasons for why I love both Odin Sphere and Atlas. I really love Atlas. If Atlas was a lady, I'd do her. Number 8. Auto-equipping items or weapons. Auto-equipping is a great thing for stuff like FPS games and action adventures. You have a gun, and then you find a bigger, much better gun, so obviously you want to use that immediately, right? So instead of having to look at the item, pick it up, stopping the game to go to your menus, having to locate it within the whole bunch of other crap you got, whether the new weapon or item is, then equipping it, then exiting out of all of the menus, and then keep on playing with the new piece of equipment that you got. It's a lot better to just walk past it, and there, you have it. Obviously, this is not a thing that will work well on all kinds of games, but it's still a small thing that keeps the action going instead of stopping and checking the inside of your pocket to equip that flamethrower you just found. Number 7. The background in fighting games. I love fighting games, and I suck at all of them, but even then I always seem to have a lot of fun with them. I love the design behind the characters, the different moves, the visual style, but there's one aspect of these kinds of games that I rarely see people talk about, and that's the freaking background, man. The creativity that goes into making them is really impressive. There are games like Smash Brothers, Street Fighter, and BlazBlue where there's a lot of vibrant, awesome stuff happening in the back. Sometimes the stuff that's happening in the background can affect what you're doing in battle, like in Smash and PlayStation All-Stars. All of these are great, but I feel like we haven't even achieved the full potential of it yet, or at least not in the creativity aspect. For example, in Aquapazza, there's a couple of stages located at an anime convention, with people dressed up in Fire Emblem cosplay and everything, and I've never seen that kind of stage. Usually it's some sort of big giant castle or in a different dimension or whatever. It's a small change, but it's still a thing we've never seen before. I would love more of that. Please? Number 6. Unique dialogue between characters in fighting games. And one of the things that I always look at, that as far as I know, not a lot of people seem to notice, is the interaction between characters. I know that it's a common consensus that most fighting games are really generic or just a flat-out terrible story, but there are a few that have a pretty good story, which makes the experience way more enjoyable when you actually know who all of these people are. Knowing where they come from, what their goals are, who are their friends, who are their enemies, people don't really seem to care about all of that. But to me, it can definitely make the difference between just a regular-ass battle to an epic, intense fight between two brothers, hero versus villain, or perhaps two best friends in conflict with each other, and all because of a little context. And this is made more apparent with the dialogue that you can listen to before, during, and after the fight is going on.
Sorry, but you need to die.
Ravna, why don't you understand? It's such a wonderful thing.
Dispatched in mankind's darkest hour, we are Knights of the Blue Flame!
You're still just ordinary old Junpei. Isn't it about time you evolved into someone cooler?
You supposed to be a zombie or something? How many times I gotta kill you before it sticks?
All of it just depends on the two characters you select and how aware you are of the story. Number 5. Minigames during loading screens. Gamers, at least the ones that I know, are very impatient, especially so with games that have a lot of loading screens in it. So what better way to hold you over than having a small game within that loading screen? Lisa Foyles actually made a really good video of this in her top 5 series at The Escapist, where she mentions a lot of really good ones. Most of them were some that I was already planning to mention on this list. You got the combo practice in Bayonetta, the button mashing ones from Dragon Ball Z Budokai, and even bad games like Onichambara have a small zombie slashing game while you wait. Most of the time that ended up being more fun than the game itself. It's not really the kind of thing that can change the review score of a game in a drastic way, but you're gonna be thanking Christ for it when you're waiting for the game to continue. Number 4. Immediate spawning. So one of the reasons that games like Super Meat Boy, VVVVV, and I Wanna Be the Guy work very well is because of one tiny little thing that you didn't even notice until you see games that do this terribly, like Ares Action and Sonic 06, among others. And that is how you die. Do you really think that Super Meat Boy would still be a good game if you died, then faded to black, then showed you how many lives you had, fade to black again, brought you back to the world map, select the level, fade to black again, and then you can play again, only to die once more and have to go through the whole goddamn thing again? Either that or it was just a really long loading screen, but you know what I mean. You die and you immediately come back. That's good. Do more of that, please. Number 3. Facial expressions in Wind Waker. Of all of the different iterations of Link from The Legend of Zelda, my favorite definitely has to be the Wind Waker form of him, or better known in Smash Brothers as
Toon Link!
And not just Link on his own, but most of the other characters in Wind Waker as well, because of how much personality everyone seems to have, and a lot of it is due to those facial expressions. Thanks to the unique art style of Wind Waker, you can see really vivid and colorful expressions shown on their faces, which adds more to their character. You see them get happy, sad, angry, confused, panicked, mischievous, concerned, all the emotions. If anything, I might go as far as to say that Toon Link is one of the most expressive video game characters I've ever seen. And if it weren't for that, he would have probably just been another one on the list of stone-faced heroes of Hyrule without standing out from the rest. So yeah, facial expressions. If that attention to detail wasn't there, the game as a whole would not have had the same charm and level of enjoyment that we come to recognize it for. Number 2. Information through hovering on PC games. There's probably a formal way of calling this, but I don't know it, so bleh. The best thing developers could have done with big games like Dota 2, Torchlight, and Diablo, among other games, is being able to read up on all the information just by hovering your mouse over the thing you want to know about. That's all it is, and I love it! It's a hell of a lot better than having to stop the game by pausing and searching the thing you want, and then getting information that you have to read through. Instead, you just do this. And that's it. Here it is. It's so convenient! Oh, I'm so happy. I'm crying now. Number 1. Option diversity. This! All of this! There is no other place where you can have better and more apparent attention to detail than in this very area. My dad has a saying that if you have a dirty car, then you are showing to the world that you live a disorganized, messy life. However, if you have a clean car, then that means you are telling everyone that you live a clean, responsible, organized life. So wouldn't it be fair to assume that if your option screen has barely anything on it, your game doesn't really have any detailed attention put into it? Is it too much for me to assume that a game is good, or at the very least of a very good quality, if it allows me to manipulate a bunch of stuff on it through the option screen? Rebindable keys, FOV sliders, graphical settings, left-handed mode, colorblind mode, language options, all of these things aren't really things that people focus on until the game is released. And even then, it can really make the difference between a failure and a success, especially when you're talking about PC games. And that to me is the greatest attention to detail you could ever give to video games. And there you have it, that's my list. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you think there's anybody out there who's interested, you know, any game developer or game... mucus. If you think there's anybody out there who's either a game designer or a game enthusiast or a developer who's working on its own little indie game, maybe, or, you know, just somebody who dedicates itself to looking at the tinier little nuances of game development, then you can go ahead and share this video out to people. I mean, I'm sure there's so many other people that are interested and they just don't find these kinds of things. And again, if you guys have something to respond to, or if you have a top 10 list of your own little attention to details in games that were not mentioned here, then go ahead, leave a comment in the comment section, you know, leave a response. I would love to read and, you know, just, I forgot what I was going to say. And if you guys have a top 10 list of your own, be sure to leave it down in the comments. I would love to read and respond to every single one of them if I have time. But, yeah, I'm very interested because I'm sure there are so many things out there that I just did not mention at all, and I really want to know. Well, that's it for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, and of course subscribe to stay updated on everything that I'm doing so you never miss a single thing when it comes out. I got a bunch of Let's Plays, I got a podcast, and I make these scripted videos once in a while, which I think is the good stuff of the channel. So yeah, stick around, you know, search around on all the playlists. I have a lot of stuff that I've done, you know, in the past and all of these years, so essentially it's a matter of picking your poison and seeing what you like and just enjoy. Anyway, that's about it for me. I'm the Hat Person, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. That sounded a little awkward. I felt like I had to add in the bye there, because I was like, oh, I'll see you guys next time, and I kind of cut myself off there.